let's go ahead and make the main menu part of our app in this lesson. Should be fairly straightforward and should be a good review for us. All right, so we're going to call this guy Lights Out Menu. All right, we'll use our initials or username as we did before. Just to give you a heads up, we're going to be creating strings and colors like usual. And a layout. You notice we're actually going to have a linear layout here, a little bit simpler than a relative layout. We're just going to create things right in a straight line here. So 5 different things, 1 text, and then 4 buttons underneath it. And then we'll be creating listeners for each of the buttons. All right, so we'll start together with the strings. I have no problem. We have a bunch of strings, pretty straightforward. Again, for the main title here, and then the 4 buttons. This first button right here is going to have both a starting version for 7 and then formatting, one that we'll use in our code, because sometimes we'll have different numbers of buttons. I have no problem with you guys copy and pasting these as long as you see what we have, right? So I'm going to go ahead and make my app here. All right, let's go ahead and make a new Android application project. This will be called Lights Out Menu, spaces, and then your initials, edu.roseholman, username, bump up the min required SDK, grab some defaults, lights out menu, me, and the other defaults are fine. All right, I'm going to clear out some of the other stuff. All right, so clear out the stuff here for the fragment manager and the menus. Fix my imports and save that guy. Get rid of fragment main, the menu folder, activity main. Oops, go ahead and have this guy. Get rid of the layout, and it'll be empty. Well, let's go ahead and grab our strings. Don't need hello world or menu. Go ahead and copy and paste them if you'd like from elsewhere. That's what I'm going to do right now. So I'll copy these guys, paste them in, and there they go. Look just like the slides. While we're here, we might as well grab some colors. So we'll make values, new Android XML file, colors.xml, finish. And within colors, we'll go ahead and add a color. And the first one will be for our background. We had that kind of bluish color, 349 I think we had on the slides. Look kind of nice. Save it, and then add another one, another color, and this will be the text color. And we'll have it be almost white, a little bit muted, so instead of all F's, we'll use E's. It'll be just a really nice light gray. All right, so we have our colors and our strings. What we're going to be doing next is creating a linear layout in place of the relative one. We'll see that the linear layout here has the text at the top and then the 4 buttons. So we're going to need to do things like using the colors here, changing the text, making sure they're the right width, and so on. And basically, I'd give you a challenge right now, right? So if it seems like you know what you're doing, I'd say go ahead and finish this screen, right? You could certainly do all the things with the layout, and you could set listeners for all 4 of these. Might as well have main activity implement the OnClick listener, right? So that you're going to be setting all the listeners to this, like we've done in the past. And then in each case, when they when they click a button, just go ahead and print out a log message. And I'd wonder, how close could you get it just by looking at this screenshot right here, right? So is that enough for you to create the app, or at least this screen of the app? All right, now don't worry if you get stuck. You can go ahead and look at the next slides. There are different properties and everything. Even the XML is in there, and even the answers themselves. What I'm going to do is let you go ahead and do that, and then I will create it myself very quickly, again, just as another way of checking your work. Okay, so here we go. Back in Eclipse, I'm going to make myself a linear layout that's vertical for everything to go into. I'm not quite sure why that's so small. Let's see if we can get that a bit bigger. And we'll go in here, and so far nothing in it. Let's go ahead and grab, whoops. Let's go back in here and grab a text view, and then I'm going to grab one button. I'll end up copy and pasting this button a few times. What do we need? So the linear layout itself needs its background color changed. So we'll do Android background, and that'll be the color background that we had defined. The text view, it doesn't even need an ID. I'm not going to be changing it or referring to it anywhere else. So I'll go ahead and delete that guy. Its text is going to be the string for the main title. So we'll put that in there. And what else is it going to need? It's going to need its text size changed. All right, I think that was probably around like 30 scale independent pixels. And let's see, what else do we have here? So the text size, the text color itself, we'll let it be that nice whitish color, so the color of the text. And maybe that's okay. Let's check. That looks a lot better. We've got a button, so let's go ahead and update the button. So the ID for this first button here is the play button. Its text is going to be the string that we use for the play button at the start. So we use that guy. And I'm going to take this button and just copy it a few times. So 2, 3, 4, format it. Take a look at what we got here. Not wide enough. So I wanted all of them going the full width there. So actually I think what I'm going to do is undo that copy and paste and change the width of this guy to be match parent. And now copy and paste it. 2, 3, 4, format, save. Take a look at it. That looks a little bit better. Let's change the text on these guys and their IDs. So the next one right here is the one that changes the number of buttons. So the ID I'm going to call like change num buttons button. Right. And the string will be something very similar here, the change num buttons button. The next one was for the about button, and its string is going to be the same. So start typing that and control space. The last one here was the exit button, and its string is just going to be for the exit button. All right, all the warnings go away. Let's take a look, and now we've got some text. Now a couple other things we want to do. So we want this whole thing to be centered kind of down. So we're going to use something called gravity. All right, so the gravity of the contents within the item would say sort of what direction are they drawn, just like normal gravity. So normal gravity, I guess, would pull us down to the bottom here, but we're going to be able to make gravity go in any direction. So inside the layout as a whole, I'm going to set Android : gravity to be, and if I hit control space, it'll give me options. I want them to be centered vertically. And let's see what that does. All right, so very nice. So all the buttons are centered vertically now, and then I want this text here to be centered horizontally. So I can do the same thing with the text view. So go here, and Android gravity is going to be centered horizontally. And let's see, what did I mess up here? Yeah, that's right. So the layout width here, I made wrap the content. Let's make that match the parent first, and then the text will center horizontally within that. Looks pretty good. The only thing that I see missing here is that I haven't really left any sort of a margin on the outside. And really I don't want a margin, because remember, margins are outside of things, and there's nothing outside the layout. But I can use what's called padding, and padding is going to put some spacing so that the contents are going to be spaced in a little bit here. So again, maybe I can show that to you. So if I have padding, then everything is going to kind of sit within this amount if I were to put padding on all four sides. right? And that's going to push these buttons in a little bit. All right, so let's see how that works. So the layout itself, I'll say Android padding, and again, I went by it pretty quickly, but you see we could set individual padding items if I wanted, but I really want the padding to be the same thing all the way around. So we'll say 20 DPs. Take a look. That looks pretty good. Looks pretty much like my screenshot, so I'm happy enough with it. Looks good. I'm going to go back to the activity. All right, so the activity, what do I want to do? I have a play button. And play button I'm going to be referring to later. So I'm going to declare this guy as a field out here, import button. And then I will go ahead and capture it. So this guy is going to equal, and I'm going to call find view by ID and cast it to a button, r.id.playButton. And then I'm going to set a listener on it. So my play button dot set on click listener. Now I have the class itself respond. Now if I have this respond, this in this context is main activity. So main activity needs to be a listener. So I'm going to have it implement on click listener. That'll finish it up for me. And that means that if it implements that interface, then it needs to implement the methods in the interface. I can do that by clicking and letting this do it for me. I just thought you might want to know that there should be a way here for source. You can override or implement methods. If I click that, it even has OnClick selected because it knows that that's what I need. I'm going to choose that and gets us to the same place. I could even type the thing in from scratch if I really wanted to. Good so far. Let's get caught up in the slides here so you can see where I'm going with this. So here were the properties that I set with the different colors and everything. Looks great, so no problems there. And the XML if you want to refer to it. And I'm setting my listener, so I've already created one for my play button. You'll notice for the other ones here that I am doing it all in one line. Since I'm not going to be referring to these other buttons elsewhere, I'm going to go ahead and capture it in this part right here, and then take that captured one, keep it anonymous, so not even give it a name, and then go ahead and call set OnClickListener directly on it. So pretty straightforward. And then for the other ones, the same things. I don't really care what you do. If you wanted to break it up into different lines of code, no problem there. That's just what I'm choosing. So, all right. So button, find view by ID, r.id.changeNumButtons button. And I'm going to want to call set OnClickListener on this with this. And it complains here. I guess it doesn't really know how to do precedence here. It's saying that I'm missing a semicolon or something's going on. I happen to know that what the problem is. I need an extra pair of parentheses here. So I want to basically cast the whole thing and then take the result and set an OnClickListener on it. Do the same thing for the other two buttons. So not only for changeNumButtons button, but also for the About button, I'll set a listener, and then for the Exit button, I'll set a listener as well. So I have button listeners, so when they click, it should call OnClick here. And of course I have to figure out which one it is. So I'm going to be using the views get ID. Since I have 4 of them, they're all kind of parallel. I could use if-else's. I'm going to use a switch today. So v.getID, so I'm switching off some integers, and I'm going to have 4 different cases. So the first one right here is the play button. So if the play button was pressed, I just want to hit a log message here. So log.d. So lights out menu, and I'll just say play button clicked. And then break out of this so I don't have fall through. Go ahead and import log. Looks good. Now it actually turns out that this string I'm going to be using over a bunch of times, and chances of me typing the wrong thing one time are pretty slim, but usually it's pretty good practice if we use a constant for that. So if we go on here, we could define a string constant with the same name and just use that in there. It'll make it kind of nice because then you can refer to it from all the different activities. So just fine. All right, so that is what I'm going to do here. So source, extract a constant. All right, so the constant name is by default is the same thing. So I notice here that it says private static final string LOM equals the result LOM. Pretty sweet how it does that. So there's my first case. I could test this right now, or I could just hope that all of them are going to work. I'm going to hope today. So what do we got? r.id. Next one is change num buttons button. Change num buttons button clicked. Next one is my about button. And our log message will say about button clicked. And then finally we have the exit button. This says exit button clicked. And I'll run this guy in the emulator, and we'll let that install. That might take a couple minutes. Okay, and my emulator came up and running here. So let's see what we got. So I hit play with 7 buttons, and I want to get to my logcat. Let's see what we got here. Clear this guy out. Let's try it again. Play with 7 buttons. We see the play button is clicked. Change num buttons, about, exit, about, and so on. So all my buttons seem to be wired together. So far this is just the review part of our app, this main screen. All right, all the fun stuff starts in the next lesson. So we'll see you then.